Exercise 23 deals with the anatomy of the respiratory system. There are different events that occur in the respiratory. We have pulmonary ventilation. This is what most of you refer to as breathing. This is getting the air to move into and out of the lungs. Number two, you have external respiration. This is the gas exchange that is occurring in the lungs between the pulmonary blood and the alveoli. So oxygen is what we say is being loaded into the blood, so it's moving from the alveoli into the blood, and carbon dioxide is moving out of the blood into the alveoli so it can be exhaled. Number three, you have the respiratory gas transport. So this is now movement of the oxygen and the carbon dioxide in the blood to where it needs to go. And then internal respiration. This is now the gas exchange between the blood and the tissue cells. This is going to occur in the capillaries throughout the rest of the body, not in the lungs. So the organs of the respiratory system are the nose, the pharynx, the larynx, the trachea, the bronchi, and then the lungs. And within the lungs, where the gas exchange occurs is going to be in the alveoli. So this diagram is certainly showing all these various components and the order of them, as we just said, as the air is going to flow in through the nostrils. It will swirl around in the nasal cavity and then down through the pharynx, through the larynx, the trachea, where then at the bottom of the trachea it splits to the right and the left primary bronchus to service each of the lungs. So the overall function of the respiratory system is for this gas exchange to occur. You want to get rid of the carbon dioxide, which high levels are toxic, and you want to take in the oxygen that the cells need. As you first inhale the air in the nasal cavity, the air is going to swirl around, and the nasal cavity has these different folds in it. It's going to help purify the lungs. It's going to warm it up. You don't want cold air going in the lungs. And it's also going to add moisture. So in this diagram, you can certainly see the different conchi and the folds, etc. that gets the air swirling. This also helps when you sniff deeply to be able to activate the receptors for smell, the olfactory receptors there, which is why you tend to sniff when you really want to smell something better. The air swirls around in there. And then the pharynx, as you can see, is divided into three components. The uppermost one is the nasopharynx, which is behind the nasal cavity, so the air is first going to pass through there. From the nasal pharynx, it goes to the oropharynx, which is behind the oral cavity or the mouth, and then finally the laryngeal pharynx. So once again, these three sections are shown here. And then this is a cross section through the thorax, showing the relationship of the lungs with placement to the heart, to the esophagus, etc., which is going behind the trachea. Now, once into the lungs, the primary brachia will divide into the secondary brachia, which serves each of the lobes. And yes, the left lung is slightly smaller than the right lung. The left lung has 2 lobes, the right lung has 3 lobes. The reason the left lung is a little bit smaller is to leave room for the heart. So each, as the trachea comes down, I said it's going to break into the primary bronchi, and from there to the secondary, which serves each of the lobes. And then from there, further, it's like a tree branching, and the branches are getting smaller and smaller in diameter. So from the secondary bronchi, you go to the tertiary and the terminal bronchioles, to the respiratory bronchioli. And as you can see in this diagram, then you have the alveoli duct. At the end of each one, you have the alveolar sacs with the individual alveoli. This is where the gas exchange actually occurs.